Hey everyone, it's Ruben here with Kindred Dog PDX, and we are here with the question of the day. This will be question number 4, and so I'm going to get it started. So this question comes in. Our dog pulls on the leash and has lunged at other dogs. She has yet to bite another dog, but she does act aggressive. We currently have a Tritronics collar for her, but this seems to only make her more agitated. We have another dog, which we use the collar on him, and it is very effective. We purchased the Herm Sprenger collar, and she freaked out and wouldn't walk with it. We would prefer to use the remote collar for training, as we already own and use it very effectively on our other dog. Okay, great question. So you've got 2 dogs, 1 remote collar. Sounds like it's probably a multi-dog unit of some kind, but one dog uses it, the other dog freaked out, and then the Herm Sprenger prong collar freaked her out. So you did say you want to prefer to use the remote collar for training. Well, in order for us to use, I think in order to use the remote collar most effectively, we would want to teach the dog how to respond to the leash. So I understand that she freaked out on the leash the first time, but I would recommend trying it again, but maybe changing your approach. We have some videos on our YouTube page talking about leash pressure. I have a colleague, Blake Rodriguez, over in New York, Dream Come True Canine. This is where I got this concept from, of this leash pressure exercises and things like that. But we want to get the dog to turn their head away from things, and learn to follow the leash, right? If your dog was already aroused and maybe we were, trying to correct her or something like that, that can elevate the dogs. So, you'd also want to start out your training in a lower distraction environment, just to keep the outside stimuli low, and that you can actually work with her, and she's not getting overstimulated, okay? Because that's just going to make the whole process a lot harder on both of you, okay? The other, and then going back to the Tritronics collar, I myself am not very familiar with those. We use the Mini Educator from E-Collar Technologies. It's got 100 levels. It's a really great collar. So you might look at the levels on your collar. I find the more the better, because the really low numbers are going to be really soft. And if your remote only has a limited number of levels, I know there's some out there that might have only 15, sometimes 7 with in between numbers. So it would be 1 and then 3 numbers in between that, and then 2. I've definitely found those collars to be a little hotter, right? They're just a bit stronger, So you might want to take a look at that, because maybe the collar is too strong. And likewise, you'd want to teach everything on the leash first, and then you want to layer the remote collar over her now known commands on the leash, okay? I think this is a very important step that a lot of folks can miss and jump right to the remote. And the dog can get confused by the added stimulation. Even if they know everything, like you've done on leash training already, and you've taken the leash off, and they're great at everything, they always listen, but if you add that stim in there, and say, for example, you tell them to sit, they could get thrown off by that. And if we're not there to show them how to turn that off with the leash guidance and all of that, it could confuse them, and then we could think that they are blowing us off or something like that, and then we're trying to correct them, and they could just be confused, okay? So you want to make sure that you've done your due diligence in making sure that you've taught her on the leash and that you're using the leash to layer the remote collar sensation over it. Okay. Um, so I would just start slower and just go back to the basics again, and work with her maybe separately from your other dog, um, until they both get into a better space, or I guess her into a better space, right? Um, and I think, you know, and then going back to your first part of your question, you know, she pulls on the leash and has lunged at other dogs. So, you know, that is a symptom of a dog pulling on the leash. You know, leash reactivity definitely goes hand in hand with a dog pulling. So, you're going to want to, again, start in a low distraction environment and just practice a heel. Okay, just practice loose leash walking. You can do this inside your home, you know, walking up and down a hallway. You can practice this in your backyard. You know, it doesn't need to be out in the World Series just yet. Okay, like you can think about the outside with all of the outside distractions, squirrels, dogs, people, all of that stuff is the World Series. Okay, and for your dog right now, that's a lot. So we need to scale it back and start to drill the basics. Okay, this is how we can cultivate a good walk, a better state of mind for when our dog does go outside. Okay, and you know, likewise, you would want to have good handling skills because leash reactivity is a challenge, and you know, you're going to want to make sure that you are prepared and savvy on working through the situation. Okay, so we always suggest start off in a low distraction spot in your house, in your backyard, move to the front yard, drive to a park, you know, create space between you and the other dogs. As she gets better and you get better, you can think about closing that distance, right? But we have to create distance first, show the dog that we can control the environment, and you know, you just practice. You just practice, and practice some more, and that'll start becoming her default behavior, right? And throughout all of this too, though, you're like thinking about an overall training program, right? So we don't want to just be focusing on the walk. We should be focusing on what our dog does inside the house. You know, does she react to noises inside here? Does she react to something walking by the window? Can she hold the place while you go upstairs? She hold the place while you use the restroom? You know, you're going to want to get those things all in order as well if they aren't already, right? So that teaching place command. How is she going in and out of the kennel? Does she go into a kennel? You know, there's a lot of things to be considering, and not just the walk, okay? Not just the reactivity, because again, those are symptoms of other underlying issues. So lack of impulse control. Those are things that we are going to want to get to a high level before we start bringing outside dogs into the picture, okay? And if you have friends, you know, with calmer dogs, maybe use them as practice to walk by dogs and stuff like that. You know, because it's going to be a challenge with the dog who's already pulling on the leash. Like you're trying to walk past a dog and they're pulling on the leash and their energy is all crazy. That's going to be a lot harder for your dog to succeed. So I hope this answers your question, right? Holistic, or I guess a training approach that encompasses everything is going to be your best bet, okay? So if you have any questions about this, if anyone has any questions about this, feel free to hit us up in the comments. I believe you can put comments on the IGTV. But anyways, this is question 4. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, so you can get notified of new videos that pop up. These are definitely specific to just the IGTV thing. So you're going to want to, again, follow us so you can get updates on those, right? So hope you all have a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you later.